This is a pretty bold statement, but I stand behind it. I'm not sure if there is any worse of a feeling than the feeling of being fucking stuck, the feeling of being in a state of paralysis, in a state of confusion and overwhelm, and what feels like never-ending self-sabotaging behaviors where your mind is going down this mental loop and spiral of just self-defeating thoughts because you experienced a setback. I don't think there's any worse feeling than that. I despise that experience and that feeling. But I have learned how to bounce back after a setback. And because I've learned a handful of skills and a few mindset shifts that I'm going to share with you today, experiencing a setback no longer causes me to go to that place of being stuck and into a state of paralysis where I feel like I'm losing all momentum towards my goals and towards my intentions. Experiencing a setback no longer does what it used to do to me. And if you're experiencing setbacks and they are completely deflating and they're causing you to doubt and to question and to lose all steam and all momentum towards your recovery or towards your goals or towards your intentions or the things that you're trying to accomplish, there is a few things, a few skills that you can practice and a few mindset shifts that you can undergo that can absolutely change the experience of a setback. Because the reality is, setbacks are a normal part of healing binge and emotional overeating and body image challenges. They're a normal part of life. And if we don't know how to navigate them appropriately or in a way where they can be an opportunity to create more growth, it's really frustrating. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're new here, welcome to the show. I'm Jessie. I'm the host of the Dear Body podcast, and I've had the really cool opportunity over the last 4.5, 5 years to work with thousands of clients on their journey to mental retraining and nervous system regulation and how that applies to healing binge eating and compulsive emotional overeating and body image insecurities. And I've helped thousands of individuals navigate various setbacks. Setbacks are such a normal part of the process of healing that they need to be talked about, and we need to see them for what they are and experience them in an entirely different way. So again, we don't get into this place of horrible paralysis and the feeling of being stuck. That feeling is so icky. Like, I hate that feeling. And I know these are really strong descriptors, but like I said, I don't think there's any worse feeling than the feeling of being stuck and overwhelmed and confused and lacking clarity and feeling like you're on this slippery slope of self-sabotaging behavior. So let's unpack the 5 ways to bounce back after a setback. If you've got your phone handy, I would encourage you to write these down, because if you're not experiencing a setback right now, I can promise you, if you are a human being, that you'll experience a setback. If you're in process to heal binge and emotional overeating, you'll experience what you feel like is a setback. It's so normal. So being able to remind yourself of these 5 ways to bounce back can be really helpful. So step number 1, we need to reframe a setback. If our mindset with a setback is that it is a mark of failure, if our brain starts to go down the all too familiar slippery slope of, I knew it, I am the anomaly that nothing will work for, I'm a failure, I knew it, I'm broken, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, if our brain starts to go down those mental loops and spirals and we start beating ourselves up and feeling guilt and feeling shame, this is a little bit of tough love. So if you're willing to take some tough love, I'm usually super, I don't know if you describe me, those of you who have listened to the podcast, as, graceful and gentle, but I do think there is a place for tough love, and I know I need to give it to myself sometimes. So here it is. We need to stop being mentally fucking lazy. When our brain is going down these self-sabotaging spirals, call yourself out. I call myself out and I go, Jessie, stop being fucking lazy, because the way that you're looking at this situation right now is perpetuating and elongating this setback and keeping you stuck and sucking energy from the momentum that you have created. And it's really challenging if you have been on the healing path for a while, your healing journey with food and body image. Maybe you're counting days you've been binge free, or days you haven't stepped on the scale, or days you've gone without overeating, and maybe you're months and months and months into recovery, or you're a year into recovery, and some experience happens, you're triggered, mother-in-law comes into town, she's weight and body obsessed, she says some triggering comment, and the way you cope with it is you revert back to your old tendencies and you binge. And you hadn't binged in months. That can be such a deflating experience if you look at it and define it as a personal failure. If instead we can reframe a setback, and if we can reframe the way we're looking at it, and if we can call ourselves out when we're starting to go down those self-sabotaging thoughts, when we're having a chain of thoughts where we're just beating ourselves up and we're spiraling into shame and into guilt and into disappointment and into overwhelm, sometimes giving ourselves a little bit of tough love and going, don't be mentally fucking lazy, because your brain right now is going into autopilot. If you're familiar with getting stuck in a setback and you're familiar with beating yourself up, it's autopilot. It's easy for the brain to go on to autopilot. And so I just call myself out and I go, nope, we're not going to be mentally fucking lazy right now. No. Instead, we're going to reframe and we're going to look at the experience as an opportunity, because failure is the building blocks of success. Failing, having setbacks are a part of success. And I always remind myself that those who have succeeded have experienced more setbacks and more failures than I've even tried. And so can I just get used to the experience of having setbacks or experiencing quote unquote failures? If I look at it and I reframe it and I go, no, this is just an opportunity to teach me something, I can learn from it and I can grow from it. And you've probably heard this tip specifically before. We're going to get into some that maybe you haven't heard, but I want to emphasize the importance of seeking meaning in your setbacks. So if you're experiencing right now a setback in recovery, maybe you're starting to go back into your old ways. Maybe you re-downloaded MyFitnessPal when you were starting to practice intuitive eating because you got scared because your body's changing and it made you really uncomfortable, or you pulled out the scale after committing to not step on the scale, and you're starting to, follow these weight-obsessed fitness influencers again, and it's triggering, but you're doing this little thing in secret. If this is happening, one, it's okay. It's part of the journey. It's up and it's down. There's windy roads in the healing journey, but we've got to look at it and we've got to seek meaning and go, what is there to learn here? What's the meaning of this experience? What character development opportunity is right in front of me that if I mentally allow myself to go into autopilot and beat myself up, that I'll miss? What is the opportunity here? What can I learn here? And when we are able to seek meaning and we're able to mentally reframe, and it takes energy, right? It takes mental energy to seek meaning and to, and this isn't about toxic positivity where it's like, let's just look at the bright side. No, that's bullshit. Life is hard. Setbacks fucking suck. The feeling of being stuck is horrible, and we don't have to pretend that it's not. But instead, let's continue down a path of creating momentum and not go down this slippery slope of self-sabotage. Let's learn how to stop doing that by being mentally devoted to shifting our focus and mentally reframing by creating a narrative and a way of looking at things that will produce success and help create momentum. So if this is an example, you've experienced some sort of setback in your healing journey and you're looking at it and you're defining it as a personal failure, you're beating yourself up instead. What if we reframed it into, let me look at the bigger picture here. Yeah, this doesn't feel good. I'm just going to kind of talk you through it. Maybe this is a situation you're in. Yeah, doesn't feel good. And this is how you might talk to yourself, how I talk to myself. It doesn't feel good to be doing what I'm doing with food. Yeah, the reality is I've been in a really good flow and now I've kind of experienced what feels like a setback. But instead of even calling it a setback, I'm going to start to look at it as an opportunity and I'm going to seek the meaning here. And I think what this is showing me is that I have some blind spots. Maybe I need additional support in my recovery journey, or maybe I've started to stack on a lot of projects and I'm stretching myself thin. You're going to broaden your perspective here and you're going to see what's really happening here instead of getting so zeroed in on this idea or this narrative of being a failure. Maybe I need to prioritize getting more sleep because I've noticed that, as I get less and less sleep, I become more easily triggered and I become more impulsive. yeah, I have kind of fallen out of a flow of nervous system regulation practices or mindset practices or mindfulness practices. And I've been spending more time with people who are pretty triggering. So I think I do need to be disciplined to create a little bit more boundaries there. And I just need to take a deep breath. And instead of even thinking about resetting, I want you to just think about what's one action that I can take right now to create a feeling of moving in the right direction. What's one step that I can take right now? And maybe that's listening to some podcasts on recovery, reading a book for 10 minutes. Maybe that is practicing a breathwork technique or a various nervous system regulation technique to support grounding yourself. Maybe that is deleting MyFitnessPal or My Macros Plus, or taking that scale that you pulled out that you hadn't stepped on in a long while and going and throwing that fucking thing in the trash can. Like, just take one step in the right direction of something that's supportive. So mentally reframing a setback, looking at it differently, and challenging yourself to not be lazy mentally and go down those autopilot, slippery mental slopes of beating yourself up and sinking into guilt and shame. It's a discipline to seek the meaning and shift our perspective, broaden our perspective, and to ground ourselves and to get back to a place of, you know what, I'm going to choose to believe that no matter how many times I experience what feels like a setback, that I will get up and be an action taker and continue to move forward and seek the opportunity and be a continual lifelong learner. And these are things that you need to reaffirm to yourself. And so the second way to bounce back after a setback is to reassess what you're focused on. So the first one was about reframing. So when you're in a setback and, you're looking at it a certain way, can you reframe? Can you tell yourself a different story? Can you create a different narrative? Can you look at it from a different angle? Well, this step, reassessing your focus, is what is your focus towards your goals or towards your intentions? If you are focused on no longer binge eating or no longer emotionally overeating and working on healing a negative body image, and you're focused on how much, for example, how much you can learn about intuitive eating, and you're focused on trying harder and you're doing these things and you're, committed to your mindset work and you're committed to all of these different practices that are supporting your healing journey, and the answer is feeling like you need to try harder and you need to just work harder, sometimes we need to try a little bit softer. Sometimes we need to take a deep breath and we need to reassess what it is that we're focused on. So many of the individuals that I have the privilege of working with inside of the Food Freedom Online program, there is something that I tell all of them, and that is that 50% of the healing journey is what I call active in nature, where it's, intellectual. We are learning about, nervous system regulation. We're learning about mental retraining. We're learning about the 10 principles of intuitive eating. There's integration homework. There's the Rise With Me video sessions that, are 20 minutes a day. Like, there's these active components that we're engaged in. There's things that you actually do, but a whole other half of the healing journey is what I call passive in nature. And that is things like play, pleasure, and rest. And those things actually support nervous system regulation. And those of you who can identify with perhaps having a dysregulated nervous system, you find yourself to be impulsive or short-tempered, or you mentally and emotionally kind of check out and you shut down. If you're experiencing nervous system dysregulation, trying harder and efforting harder can sometimes be self-sabotaging in itself because it further dysregulates an overtaxed nervous system. And so the importance of play and the importance of doing things just for the fun of it, the importance of learning how to rest, the importance of learning to do things that just feel really good. I know that word pleasure, some of you are like, oh, that gives me like the ick, but pleasure is a really beautiful thing, and it can come in all different types of forms. It's not just sexual. It can come in a lot of different forms. A massage is, feels great. That's pleasurable. But anyways, sometimes we need to reassess our focus, because maybe what we think we need to do, maybe the trying harder isn't actually wise. Maybe what we need to do is learn to try softer. And so a lot of times the individuals that I work with in my program, they over intellectualize the healing journey. It's like, what more do I need to learn? What new strategy? What new technique? What new tool? And a lot of times the answer is we need to learn to try softer. We need to learn to pivot our focus and we need to prioritize creating space in our life to play, to do things just for the fun of it. And that can be incredibly healing and incredibly grounding to the nervous system when we're spending time doing things that cause us to smile or cause us to laugh or cause us to get into a flow state because time just passes and all of these neurochemicals are being released that make us feel really good and contribute to feelings of motivation and excitement and drive and grit. We need to create space in our life for these types of things because they are very, very healing. And those of you who are type A and those of you who, are go, 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 and you just want to, know the next thing to do, sometimes it's about softening into play, softening into learning how to rest without guilt and without shame. And that can completely shift the experience of being in a setback and create the refreshment that our soul needs in order to bounce back and continue forward in momentum. So if you find that you're experiencing a lot of setbacks, I would ask you, how much play, pleasure, and rest are you incorporating into your healing journey? Because if you have all of the techniques and tools and understand the science and understand all of the intellectual components of healing, but you're not integrating play, pleasure, and rest, this can cause a lot of burnout in the journey and contribute to the feelings of being stuck and being overwhelmed. So step number 3 to bounce back after a setback is to reframe your definition of success. So if you are looking at the healing journey and you're defining it in a certain way and your expectations of what success is in anything, whatever your goal is, but let's just go with maybe your definition of success in binge and emotional overeating recovery is to no longer overindulge in food. And reality is that's not becoming a reality for you. You are still overindulging with food. You're still, feeling a stronger pull towards sugar at times. If our expectations of what success looks like, if we have an expectation to never binge again or never indulge again or never emotionally overeat again, it creates a lot of pressure and it's actually unsupportive for how to view the healing journey. And so what I want to share with you right now are 6 key indicators of success. I share these with my clients so that you can look at your healing journey and you can analyze appropriately what success is and how to define success as you are in process. And this process is messy and it's full of setbacks. It's full of twists and turns. And so key indicator number 1 of success are the undesired behaviors with food and the impulses with food decreasing in intensity and frequency over time, even if there's moments where they feel more intense because maybe you're dealing with Last Supper mentality. But is the intensity and the frequency of these undesired behaviors with food and these food impulses, are they decreasing over time? And when you understand the step-by-step process for supporting your nervous system and mental reprogramming and understanding the 10 principles of intuitive eating and developing body image resilience, this will happen. You will see this happen. And I always say this, but I want to drive it home. Food freedom, true food freedom, true freedom is no longer experiencing the urge or the impulse to binge. It's not about white knuckling your way through and trying to develop more strength to not give in. It's about not experiencing that. And when you support your nervous system, those impulsive tendencies begin to dissipate. So number 2, key indicator of success, is my nervous system becoming more regulated? Am I becoming more regulated? Am I existing more within what's known as my window of tolerance? Am I less activated? Am I less hyper aroused? And am I dropping into states of hypoarousal less? Those are states of nervous system dysregulation. First, we got to understand the nervous system. Nervous system regulation episode in the show notes if you haven't listened to that yet, so you can go back and learn more about what dysregulated nervous system looks like and how process of nervous system regulation works. But is my nervous system becoming more regulated? Am I becoming more grounded, more calm, more cool, more even keel? Am I able to think clearly more often? Is my emotional internal temperature becoming more regulated. Indicator number 3 is my emotional quotient, or is my emotional intelligence improving? Am I understanding emotions more? If we are stuck in these cycles of over intellectualizing the healing journey, we're getting it wrong, because so much of learning how to feel better is becoming a better feeler by developing a higher level of emotional intelligence. We need to understand how emotions work, how to metabolize them in our system, how to navigate different emotions. We need to develop a variety of emotional coping skills so that these emotions aren't becoming too much for our system and sending us into the desire to numb out because we don't want to handle emotions. Or some of you might be familiar with being emotional stuffers, where you kind of just push it all down and you maybe snap, and sometimes, you cry out of nowhere, or you lash out, or you're irritable, or you're angry out of nowhere because you don't know how to support your emotional state on a day-to-day basis. And we often think that we are cognitive beings, thinking beings who sometimes feel. But what Brene Brown tells us, and from her research, is that we are actually feeling emotional beings who sometimes think. So understanding emotional intelligence, super important. It's a key indicator of success. Number 4, is my self-perception expanding? Is my self-esteem improving? So in the previous podcast episode, I was talking about weight loss and food freedom and how I navigated wanting both of those things. And the problem with my self-perception that was keeping me stuck in the cycles of binge and emotional overeating and so much body image insecurity was that I perceived myself to be my body in a very large way. My self-perception was so wrapped up in the way that I looked that I forgot who I was. And so a key indicator of success is that our self-perception, the way we view ourselves, is ever expanding, and we're recognizing we are in fact far more than a body. There's so many different dimensions to who we are. Another indicator of success, number 5, is my mental dialogue and mental management and mental collaboration improving. So when we think about mental management, what I was saying earlier about training ourselves to not be kind of mentally lazy when those self-sabotaging thoughts begin to spiral, we need to learn how to manage them and be able to pivot them and shift our focus and mentally reframe. And we need to learn how to collaborate with our mind in a way that allows us to create momentum in our life. So as we're learning mental management skills and we're learning how to train our mental dialogue in a different way, if that's happening, that is a key indicator that we're moving in the right direction. And then lastly, a key indicator of success in your journey of conquering binge and emotional overeating and body image challenges, this might not seem related, but I'm telling you this is related, are my relationships and interpersonal skills improving. And the reason that's a key indicator of success is a dysfunctional relationship with food pulls us away from authentic and genuine connection with other people. It causes us to hole up, to push away, to shrink, to isolate ourselves. And that creates a lot of dysfunction in our relationship. So as we're healing and as we're learning all of the different puzzle pieces that fit together to create food and body freedom, our relationships with not only ourselves, but others will be improving. So if that's happening, that's an indicator that we're moving in the right direction. So that was the third way to bounce back from a setback, is to reframe your definition of success. But it's helpful to understand what the key indicators of success are when it comes to food freedom and body freedom and that journey. Now, point number 4 has to do with identity. We need to reaffirm our identity as action takers. And this is really, really powerful. Researchers believe that the key to lasting and sustained behavior change has so much to do with who we think we are, what we believe to be true about ourselves. And if you have an identity, if part of your identity is that you start things and then you stop things and you get going on things and then you fail, if that's part of the narrative in your head, we need to practice creating a new belief. And all a belief is a practiced thought. And so we need to start repeating to ourselves and affirming to ourselves an affirmation that goes something along the lines of, I am an action taker, regardless of the outcomes, regardless of what happened yesterday, regardless of what happened at lunch. I continue to take action towards my goals. I continue to take action towards my responsibilities. I am an action taker. And I recently watched Jonah Hill's documentary Stutz on Netflix. It's basically an interview. Jonah Hill is interviewing his therapist, Phil Stutz, and it's an amazing interview. And his therapist is talking about the different tools that he gives his clients, that he's given Jonah, that has changed his life. Highly recommend. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's on Netflix. It's called Stutz. But basically, his therapist is explaining the concept around identity with this idea called the string of pearls. So I'm going to share what he shares in the movie. He basically talks about the string of pearls being this commitment that we make to ourselves to be in forward motion. And he explains the idea like this. He says, we have to keep going. It seems stupid. Isn't that like simplistic? It is. But we want to say, I'm the only one who puts the next pearl on the string. That's all. I know nothing else. That's called the string of pearls. So this is what he's saying in the movie. That's probably the most important thing motivationally you could teach yourself. You just draw a string of pearls. There's a line, then a circle, then a line, then a circle, then a line and a circle. Each circle equals one action. But here's the thing, and then this goes in to point number 5. You have to judge each action you take equally. So we have to begin releasing this idea that certain actions weigh more than the other and just judge each action equally. And so he goes on to say, this is a matter of identity, who I am. I'm not great. I'm not shit. I don't want to look at myself and think. I look at myself just in terms of the habits with which I take action. If there's a failure or a big success, by the way, either way, you're going to keep going. I am the person that puts the next string on the pearl. That's it. So essentially what he's saying is to have this concept of the string of pearls, and he just draws it out on a note card in the movie where it's just a line and then a circle, a line and then a circle, and each circle, and he draws a little black circle inside of it, and he goes, each pearl has a turd inside of it, which means some of the actions that you take are going to have terrible outcomes, or they're not going to, they're going to have mediocre outcomes, or they're not going to produce a whole lot of momentum, but it doesn't matter because you draw that line and then there's another circle and you keep stringing the pearls. You keep taking action. So if you're feeling like, man, I've gone, 60 days or I've gone 6 months without stepping on the scale or weighing myself or having a binge and you're feeling deflated, it's like, okay, and I'm going to draw that line and I'm going to draw another circle and I'm going to be somebody who takes action. A commitment to forward motion is going to dramatically change the way that you feel in your journey. How many of you have gone on a fitness journey? And yeah, I say this all the time because I think so many of us can relate to this, but have you ever gone on a fitness journey and you've gotten really consistent with exercising for 2 or 3 weeks and you feel a dramatic improvement in your body image? My question is always, did your body transform in 2 to 3 weeks? And the answer is always no, it didn't completely transform, but you feel dramatically better. Why is that? Because you're just taking action. And when we take action consistently, it creates momentum. And if you take action and you have a really shitty workout and you only get 10 minutes in, but the next day you get up and you get in a movement session again, and maybe the next day your intention was to have balanced meals, but you're triggered and you binge, but the next day you have that intention to have balanced meals and to practice regulating your nervous system and supporting your mind and being mindful and committing to continue to heal, that momentum is life-changing. And the way we begin to view setbacks is a lot less detrimental to our overall success. It's just a blip. It's just one of the pearls on the string of pearls of life. It's just one action and we judge it equally. So to conclude, I'm going to just do a quick synopsis. If you haven't written these down, get your note section of your phone, get a sticky note, get your journal. Number 1, the first way to bounce back after a setback, reframe it. Shift the way we're looking at it. And like I said, I always challenge myself. I give myself some tough love with this one. And I go, Jesse, don't be fucking mentally lazy. You want to go into beating yourself up, but you know that doesn't keep you in momentum. That doesn't produce forward motion, that doesn't allow you to see the opportunity to develop your character. Seek meaning, seek understanding, seek the opportunity here. What's the lesson here? What's broaden your perspective? Number 2, reassess your focus. Are you focused so hard on trying harder and your spirit's tired and worn out and you need to learn how to invite a little bit more space and a little bit more play and a little bit more pleasure? Are you focused on the right things? Maybe we need to shift our focus a little bit onto some things that will create more momentum. Maybe we're thinking we're doing the right thing and focusing on the right thing, but we need to shift our focus a little bit. So reassess your focus and include play, pleasure, and rest into the equation. Number 3, reframe your definition of success and remember those key indicators of what actually constitutes success in the healing journey. Number 4, reaffirm your identity as an action taker or somebody who continues to put the next pearl on the string. I'm an action taker. Regardless of what happens with that previous action, I'm going to take the next action. If I succeed, okay, cool. I'm still going to take the next action. If I fail, cool. I'm still going to take the next action. And then number 5, we want to judge each action we take equally. Judge it equally. Don't give each action so much mental weight. Your success is awesome, but it's not the all, it doesn't define everything. We're people who take action. Our failures don't define everything. They're just part of it. So I just want to congratulate you on getting out of being stuck. These are powerful tips and mental reframes and skills to practice. So congrats, you're no longer going to be debilitated by a setback. It is part of life. Welcome to being human. If you want to join my entirely free VIP email list, I'd love to have you. I share exclusive tips, tricks, links, and content that I don't share anywhere else. You can go to www.jessijean.com/VIP. Join me over there. You can write back to me. We can connect. It will be fun. Thank you also for taking the time to rate and review the podcast. I so appreciate it and really means a lot. So thanks for that. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.